Yeah, it's difficult times. It's times. It reminds us that we have to just keep davening. Achinu kol beis Yisrael. When we say those words, we say Tillim after davening every day, and we say those words, Achinu kol beis Yisrael. I mean, our shul, Achinu, our brothers, kol beis Yisrael, the entire Jewish people. It's just a good reminder, just those three words, like not even saying anything else. Just Achinu kol beis Yisrael, Hanasunim b'tzara. Everybody's got tsaras, everybody's got stresses. Don't think that us who are removed from it. Now, it could be, I'm not speaking for everybody. It could be everybody has different ways of handling it, but there's no question. I mean, last night, it wasn't just that we had, 1:30, 1:45 in the morning, whatever it was. It wasn't just the siren. The siren last night sounded louder than the night before. And it sounded like there were multiple sirens. It was just very intense. And then you heard right after the siren, you heard this like whooshing sound that sounded like planes taking off, which was, I believe, the Patriots. Those are they're very close to here. One of the installations of Patriot missiles. So that was the sound of Patriots, but it was just, and then you hear blasts, and it's just very surreal. And you realize, you're living through a war. It's not. Look, for me, this is my first experience with this. Many of you have experienced, unfortunately, experienced this many, many times, but it's my first experience, and it just makes me realize that, here, I don't know what we have to worry about here. I don't know how real the threat is in Modi'in or how not real it is, but it doesn't really matter. It's a reminder for us that there are people who are, who've got 15 seconds to get into the shelter, and there are people down south that are suffering. There are hits, there are wounded, there's all of that, but there's also a lot of mental stuff going on. There's a lot of emotional stuff going on, and it takes a toll. It also brings out such beautiful things in people. I don't know if I mentioned yesterday. Yeah, I did. I mentioned it yesterday, but I saw another beautiful thing yesterday. So, from the Misrata Klita, whatever, they sent out a thing, and just sort of like touching base, and if anybody's got any issues, we got people here to talk to. Just give us a call, because you do feel a little bit. And again, I'm not speaking for everybody, but for me, if I had a problem, who am I going to talk to? Because I could not express myself in Hebrew, and they can't express themselves in good enough English to be able to deal with what I'm going through. I'm not, I'm good, but I'm saying if I was going through something so then just to get that thing, that itself was reassuring. You know what? There's somebody to reach out to. There's somebody there that can understand you, that's going to talk to you. I thought it was a very, I thought it was a very beautiful thing. It's the worst place that Klal Yisrael can be in, but it brings out the best in Klal Yisrael. And that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to watch, and that's a good way to keep your eyes trained, to look at all the chesed and all the kindness that's going on, and the reaching out to other people. My Baal Dira is in America right now, and my Baal Dira reached out to me and just wanted to know. I mean, I'm paying them money every month, but they reached out and just said, "Is the window working? Is the door? Is everything okay? Are you guys okay?" I just, what? There's just nobody like us Jews. There is mi ka'amcha Yisrael. Who is like your nation of Israel? I think it's a good takeaway to remember and to hold on to. Okay, let's talk about parsha. I was going to finish the Mishnah, but I decided that I have enough to do on it that it really needs to be separated from the parsha, and I'll do that in Mitzvah Hashem next week. Next week there won't be class, of course. There won't be anything on Sunday. That's Erev Yontif. There won't be anything on Monday. That's Yontif, and Tuesday, Motzoi Yontif, which is so funny for me to say that. The day after the first day Yontif is Motzoi Yontif. I think it'll be fine. Tuesday morning, I think that'll be fine, and we'll start up again on Tuesday. Resume recording. Okay, there we go. All right, let's talk about this week's parsha. This week's parsha is Parshas Bamidbar. We start a new book. We start a new chapter. We start a new view of life. We're marching now towards Eretz Yisrael. We're marching now towards the moment of entrance into the land of Israel. And the Torah recounts all of the things that take place with the Jewish people as they march towards their destination. There's a count in this week's parsha, which is why the book is called the Book of Numbers, because it starts with a count, with a census, which itself raises great questions. How are we allowed to count the Jewish people? When are we allowed? Not allowed? That's not for now. But in part of the counting, there also, the Torah tells us about the Golim. It tells us how we marched through the desert, and it tells us about the flags. And the Medrash says that every tribe had a flag, and the Medrash, there are beautiful midrashim that talk about how the nations of the world saw our flags, and all they wanted those flags. They wanted us actually to become a part of them so that they could have our flags. You don't need to become a part of us to have a flag. You want a flag? Go hire Betsy Ross. She'll do you a flag, and you'll have a flag. Like you don't need the Jews to give you flags. Okay, we have a bunch of us that are good tailors. I understand. We sew nicely, but you don't need the Jews in order to have a flag. You make a flag. Take a shmata, make a picture, put it on a stick, and you make a flag. Even I could do that. Even I understand the arts and crafts, right? You can put it together. What do you need the Jews for? Why were they so excited about the Jews? And they wanted to take them on because of the flags that they had. And the truth is, the Midrashim also talk about the fact that there are flags in Shemayim. A weird thing, flags in Shemayim. What's the delegation of angels from Jupiter? The delegation of angels from Mars. Like what do they have flags? What were they demarking with the flags? Okay, Moshe was worried about the flags. Everybody else was loving the flags. Moshe Rabbeinu looked at him and he said, God, we got a lot of tzaras. Because, you did it already once. You gave us Kohanim, Levim, Yisraelim. You made divisions with us. And now we have tribes that, and that's tough enough to have the differences. Now we're going to have flags, and it's going to be my flag is better than your flag, right? My picture is better than your picture. And now all it's going to do is it's going to make rivalry in the Jewish people. And God says to them, you don't have to worry. He says these flags and all of this was already decided in the time of Yaakov Avinu. Because in the time of Yaakov Avinu, when Yaakov died, and the tribes went with him, and the tribes had to take Yaakov Avinu for burial. So when they took Yaakov for burial, Yaakov told them when they were standing around his bed, even before he died, you stand here, you stand here, you stand here. And Yaakov Avinu had told each one of them where they're supposed to stand. So you don't have to worry. It's not going to cause divisions because this was already set up. Many, many, many years ago, this was already set up. What does all that mean? What are these Degalim? What are these flags that are given to us? And what is the count? Why is the counting of the Jewish people so important? And why is this the parsha? That we gerrymander parshios, we put two of them together, we take them apart, depending on the year, just so that before Shavuos we could read Parshas Bamidbar. There are many answers to that question, but I'm going to give you my take on it. When we daven every day in Tehillim and Psalms, we say a very beautiful mizmor. In that mizmor, we say the following words. In the mizmor Hallelujah Kitov Zamra Elokeinu, in there we say that God is a rofei lishavurei lev. God heals the brokenhearted. Umechabesh la'atzlosum, and he soothes their sadness. Mone mispar lakochavim, he counts, puts a number on every star. L'chulam shemas yikra, for all of them he gives a name. What does it mean? The two parts, the two psukim, don't seem to flow from each other. God is a rofei l'shvurei lev, and he's a mona mispar lakochavim, and he counts the stars. What does one have to do with the other? And even within the pasuk, harofei l'shvurei lev, he heals the brokenhearted. Umechabesh Atslosum, takes away their sadness. Well, if you heal the brokenhearted, you take away their sadness. I'll tell you a beautiful thing. God is a rofei l'shvurei lev. He heals the brokenhearted. But there's nothing wrong with being brokenhearted. It's not a disease. To be brokenhearted about expectations that you weren't able to fulfill, expectations that you wanted, it's a natural thing in life, and we have to learn how to live with it. We have to learn how to deal with it. God can't take that away from us. He can't heal us from a broken heart. It's not to our benefit. We grow from having to deal with a broken heart. When we have expectations, we have dreams, we have hopes, we have aspirations, but we're not able to fulfill them, it gives us a very real picture of what life is all about. When we had an expectation of ourselves and we thought that we could accomplish and do something and that we couldn't, in reality, we couldn't do that, and we're brokenhearted from it. We have only what to learn and what to grow from it. But when we become paralyzed because of our broken heart, when we become atzuv, when we become depressed and saddened, and now the rest of our life takes on a pull, and it becomes difficult for us to progress forward, that's what God takes away from us. He takes away the negative reaction, the sadness, the paralyzation that comes when a person hits a stage of being brokenhearted. That's how he is rofei shvurei lev, by mechabesh latzvosam. He takes away the negative effects of shviras halev, of a broken heart. And how does he do that? Because why are you sad? Why are you atzav? Why did you become depressed when you became brokenhearted? Because you felt worthless. You felt useless. You felt like you couldn't do what you had been driven to do, what you had dreamed about doing, what you had aspired to do, what you had hoped was going to happen in your life was taken away from you, and you feel like you feel impaired. You feel less than who you really should be. So what does God do? How does he heal the Atslosum? Mone mispar lekochavim. He gives a number to every star. What does that mean that he gives a number to every star? I might have told you this once, but in America, they had, every year before Mother's Day, they would have this thing about the star registry, and that you could buy your mom a star and name the star after your mom, and that forever your mom was going to be in the sky. She would be in the star registry, and when you would look at it, at this registry, you'd see your mom's name. For a mere $49.95, 6 payments, you two can have this call right now, and we'll throw in a knife that that cuts itself. This was every year before Mother's Day. Now, how do I know this so well? Because somebody who wanted to buy me a gift looked at me and said, well, this is the man that has everything. What could we get him that he doesn't have? Let's buy him a star. And there is a star in our galaxy that is called Wohlgelernter. My condolences to the star. And it's got my name on it. I've got a thing. I don't even know if I still have it, but I have a framed thing from the registry with where exactly, if I wanted to go there, it gives me a map and shows me exactly where my star is. When you look up at the sky, what do you see? You see stars. You see a mass of stars. You see constellations. You see groups. But what God tells us, every single star has a name. And that means every single star has a purpose, has a tafkid and a tachlis. Every single star has a mission. And just like God is Meina Mispel Kachavim, the Chulam Shemais Yikra, he gives them all names, he gives them all identities. That's how he heals us, by making us realize that we are important and valuable and that we have a mission. We make a difference in this world. You'll see in this week's parsha that it says that we were counted lemispar shemos. Mispar is a number. A number is a mass. When you add even your Tudat Zuhut, you're a number. Your social security number, you're a number. You're just part of a larger mass. I'll tell you a fascinating thing. I once had a worker in the house, and he asked me my Tudat Zuhut number. So I told him my Tudat Zuhut number. He said, we must have made Aliyah on the same day. because his Tudat Zut number, he was in Oleh from South America, his Tudat Zut number, and this goes back 30-something years. Whatever, we had made Aliyah once before. So this 30-something years ago, he's 40 years ago, so almost 40 years ago, whatever, he said his number was one off of my number. So he asked me what year. I told him, I made Aliyah a year ago. He said, no, it's not possible. So then we figured it out. It was from the first time, and it was amazing. But that's what you are. All you are is a number. That's it. You're a number. You're registered. You're a number. So in the Torah it says mispar shemos. It gives both things for accounting. It says a mispar, a number, and shemos, which is an individual, it's a name. It's an identity. It sounds like a contradiction. It's not a contradiction, because that's the reason why we're compared to both kochavim, kochve hashomayim, and kechol al svasayam, like the sand on the sea. Because as a star, that every star is an individual, you are an individual. When we say to a person, that they're great and they've done something amazing, what do we say? You're a star, right? You're a star. You're stellar, because a star shines. Each individual star contributes something. But we're also like kechol al svasayam, like the sand on the sea. Because the sand, no one grain is important. You pick up a grain of sand, you have to throw away so many others, and you get that one grain of sand, and you look at it and you say, wow, I have a grain of sand. Shkayach, you have nothing. It's not, each individual grain is nothing. But when you put all those grains together, you now have the boundary and the border of the sea. You have the thing that keeps the sea in its place. You have something beautiful, something that's stunning to look at. It's beautiful to walk on and to sit on. But its chashivas is the fact that they are all together. And those are the two things that we have to recognize that we have. We're like koichavim. We are like stars, like individuals. But we're also like sand at the sea. We're part of a larger klal. We're part of a larger group. We said this, we learned this in a Mishnah. You may not need li, me. If I'm not for me, if I'm not worried about the individual, if I'm not worrying about my shine, who is going to worry about that? But kishani la'atzmi, when all I worry about is me shining and not me shining on behalf or with along the rest of the klal, then mo ani, what am I? When the Torah tells us in this week's parsha that we are mispar shemos, that we have to count everybody, but we are mispar shemos, we are a number and an individual, it's the balance, it's our challenge to recognize that we have a mission, but to recognize that part of that mission is attached to ourselves, to the klal, is to be part of everything. And how do we do that? By knowing that we matter. That God counts every one of us as individuals, that we are an individual, we have a mission, we have a purpose, and we as individuals, we matter. And our individuality has to be connected to the klal. When the nations of the world looked at us, they saw that every tribe was seeing itself as an individual. Ruvain had a flag, Shimon had a flag, Yehuda had a flag. Moshe Rabbeinu was worried about that. Moshe Rabbeinu was worried that every single tribe would see themselves only as an individual and not as part of a klal. They would only see the koichavim, but they wouldn't see the chol hayam. They wouldn't see the sand on the sea. God said to me, you don't have to worry, because they understand very well what it means to have an individual mission and an individual importance, because Yaakov Avinu taught that to his sons, who then transmitted that in their genes to their children and to their grandchildren and to their great-grandchildren, that every one of us is valuable and important, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves every single one of us. But then God took us and he put 3 on this side, 3 to the north, 3 to the east, 3 to the south, 3 to the west. And then stuck in the center, the Mishkan, the tabernacle. The tabernacle, which was the place that housed the Aron HaEdus, which housed God, the testimony to God, which housed the Torah, which made sure that Reuven's center was Torah, and Shimon's center was Torah, and Levi's center was Torah, and therefore every single one of us had a sense of being an individual, but also a sense of a klal. And this is what the nations were so shocked, because they knew that if they put up a flag, so then they would feel a loyalty to that flag, and it would cause a divisiveness, which it does in the world. When you have a flag and you're loyal to it, your flag is better than everybody else's, and it becomes divisive. It becomes the thing that wars are made of. And they couldn't understand how the Jews did it. And they thought if they would just become part of the Jews, or the Jews would become part of them, it would all work out. It wouldn't. Because the reason why it works is because we have the Torah in the center. And that my values and your values are the same. And the reason why there's a breakdown of that in Klal Yisrael is because the center is not necessarily the Torah. When the center is Torah, we can work it out. When we don't have the same center, then you have an individual opinion and lifestyle and ideology, and I have an individual lifestyle and an opinion and ideology. And it's very difficult to get those together. And that's why we lay in this parsha before Shavuos. Because we have to remember, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am your God, says God to every individual Jew. This Torah belongs to you. That's your mission. That's your direction. That's your focus. It's your Torah. But ki ish echad b'lev echad. You're like one person with one heart. You all need to be united around the same Torah. You have an individuality. You have kochavim. You are like stars. But you're also kechol hayam. You're also like the sand on the sea. And you've got to be reminded of that and remember that you're all one. Each individual has to develop themselves, but within the context of the klal. That's why this parsha is read right before Shavuos, with the degulim, with the flags, with the counting. It's dramatic. But it reminds us of a fundamental idea. We are individuals that are part of a klal. And maybe that takes us back to where we started, Achinu Kol Beis Yisrael. That it's unfortunate that we have to suffer through this, through the riots and through the missiles and through all the stresses that are going on to us now. But all of it is part of a reminder to us that every individual is important. What happens to every individual is critical, but we are also part of a klal, and that we're part of a group, and that we have to develop ourselves and focus on our own selves and our own lives, our own safety, but we also have to keep in mind that concept that we are part of Klal Yisrael, ki ish echad b'lev echad, like one person with one heart. And only when we have those two components do we then have what it takes to do what we're going to do on Monday, which is to be able to receive the Torah and to reconnect ourselves to the Torah. Just a very, very fast idea that when we read the Torah on Monday, and I know that I've mentioned this in other contexts, but when we read the Torah on Monday, that's not a regular Torah reading. It's not just reading a portion that talks about something that happened in the past that's connected to the day that we happen to be celebrating. But that at that moment, we are standing at the foot of Mount Sinai, and we are reinvigorating our commitment to Torah. And as we listen to that Kriya, listen to the reading of the Ten Commandments, we are standing at Sinai and we are accepting that Torah in ourselves. And if we're looking for a moment of inspiration to reinvigorate our Torah selves, to be able to get a little jump start, to be able to get a little boost, that's that moment. That a person, when they're listening to Kriyas Torah, also has to be listening not only with their ears, but listening with their heart, and transport themselves back to when God was speaking. And he's speaking now through the voice of the Baal Koreh. And God is calling out to us and saying, this is the connection between me and you. And if we're successful on Shavuos, then this can propel us until next Shavuos. It can lift us and guide us and give us an incredible amount of strength and encouragement to continue to strengthen and continue to hold on to our connection to Torah and to continue to grow with it. Everybody should have a beautiful, amazing, safe, meaningful Shavuos. You know, I think that you've got the message from me clearly that Shavuos is a lot more than cheesecake, and that there's important things to be accomplished on Shavuos, and we should be zocha, we should merit to be able to accomplish those things, us and all of Klal Yisrael, in safety and in health and in peace, and that we should be able to, with our Kabbalah Satorah, join that together with all the rest of Klal Yisrael's Kabbalah Satorah, and with that sincere commitment to Torah, that should say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're ready for the Geula, and the Geula, the redemption, should come quickly and speedily in our days. Amen.
Amen.
Everybody should have a beautiful
Rabbi.
Shabbos, an amazing Yontif, and we'll see everybody on Tuesday. Mirza Hashem.
Shalom, thank you. Thanks,
Good
Amen.
Shabbos.
Okay. Shabbos and Yontif.
Shabbat shalom, Chag Sameach.
Shabbat shalom, Chag Sameach.
Thank you.
Very best.
And to you all.